Welcome to my list of the worst to best Megadeth albums. This includes all of them from, 1985, from Killing Is My Business, all the way to the newest Megadeth album, Dystopia. This is the worst of the worst, ladies and gentlemen. Prepare your buttholes. You have to really squint hard to hear anything great on this album. I mean, sure, there's some decent stuff later in the album. I actually really like that one song, Ecstasy. And I even kind of like the song I'll Be There, and maybe a little bit of Wanderlust. Insomnia is annoying, Prince of Darkness is pretty boring, and that one song, Crush 'Em, is horrendous. I wouldn't say it's completely terrible like some other people would, but there's definitely some okay moments on the album, but just way too much bad. Of course, the album that almost every reviewer bashed the absolute living hell of when it came out. And of course I did too in my review. It's not completely terrible. There's definitely some good moments on there. Dance in the Rain is amazing. And a lot of people like that song Kingmaker, which basically just rips off of Children of the Grave by Black Sabbath. I wouldn't say there's that many really good moments on the album. With this album, Megadeth tried to go more for a thrashier sound after the weird mainstream attempts with like Cryptic Writings and Risk and even Euthanasia. A lot of fans were pissed off, so they decided to sort of go thrashier, but in a lot of moments on this album, it's not really that thrashy. The World Needs a Hero is hardly even metal. Some of the sounds on the album sound really weird, like when they try to go thrashy, it just sounds off, especially with like the guitar sound. It just sounds really bizarre. And then there's a lot of obvious rip-offs on the album, like they try to rip off Hangar 18, and there's this one song where they rip off Diamond Head song, Am I Evil? And there's a lot of really terrible songs in the album, like Losing My Senses, which has absolutely nothing interesting to it. It's not funny, it's not good, it's not anything. It's just so ridiculously boring. There's some decent moments, like Burning Bridges, Promises, War Horse, and then there's some really good songs like Disconnect and Dread and the Fugitive Mind. So it's a very pick and choose album where half of it's pretty good and the rest of it's terrible. These are Megadeth's decent albums, so at least it's getting better than dog shit. This album is the definition of a mixed bag album, quite literally, because they just threw on a lot of really good original, like newer songs, and then they threw on a bunch of really shitty filler songs that they wrote, and then they even threw on a bunch of old demos and B-sides that were re-recorded for this album. The good songs are Sudden Death and Public Enemy No. 1. Those ones are really, really, really good. They should have wrote the other songs more like those. They're fast and catchy. Never Dead is great. I think the redone versions of Black Swan and Millennium of the Blind are pretty decent, but like New World Order, the redone version for that's pretty terrible. And you have horrible filler like Guns, Drugs, and Money, We the People, Whose Life Is It Anyways? Yeah, some pretty decent songs at the end, like 13, and I think the riff to Deadly Nightshade is awesome. The thing is with this album is United Abominations has some incredible highlights, stuff that we haven't heard since maybe like Rust in Peace. Really good stuff like Washington Is Next and Sleepwalker and Burnt Ice and Play for Blood. Has some really thrashy stuff with great melodic sections. Then you start to have some like more standard metal songs that they'd have a lot on like Endgame, like Gears of War and Never Walk Alone. And then you have a lot of really terrible stuff on here like You're Dead and the horrendous America Stan, which has to be the worst Megadeth song ever, with terrible lyrics like From New York Atar to Calitharabia, Hey Jihad Joe, we're coming to get you. Cryptic Writings has gotten a bad rep nowadays because especially a lot of the hardcore early Megadeth fans, they really bashed on this and Risk because they were more of a mainstream approach. But this album has really, really good classic songs on it. Trust. I really love the song Use the Man. Disintegrators is fast and awesome. I'll Get Even With You is pretty catchy. Secret Place is really, really memorable. Have Cool Travel. A lot of people hate that song, but I think it's actually pretty unique. She-Wolf is awesome. Fight for Freedom is awesome. And then one of my favorite Megadeth songs on here, Vortex. This album has a lot of really, really good unsung classics on it. And Mastermind sucks. Now we get to some good stuff. Sometimes uneven, but mostly good. This will make a lot of people happy and a lot of people pissed, because the thing is, this album's very polarizing for a lot of Megadeth fans. That's kind of where I put maybe more towards the middle. I really liked it when I first heard it. There's some really good stuff on here, especially like the opening song, which almost has like death metal shredding to it. That's incredible. The Into the Lungs of Hell instrumental, and then you got the amazing Set the World Afire, the incredibly underrated Mary Jane, the amazing classic In My Darkest Hour, and the bizarrely incredible Hook and Mouth. But there's just some songs that are not aging well to me at all. Anarchy in the UK is a horrendous cover that sounds completely off from the rest of the album. And there's even moments like 502 where it also kind of sounds off from the rest of the album. It's definitely not bad, but it doesn't have like the dark, thrashy sound of a lot of other early Megadeth stuff. And then Liar, I like it, but it just seems very bitchy after a while. The riffs in there are pretty cool, but I don't know. Dave kind of sounds terrible on that song too. But there's parts of the production that sound decent, but then other parts of that sound really low budget. The drum sound is terrible, and the members he got for this album I'm not a big fan of. Out of all of Megadeth's albums, I felt this one is maybe aging the absolute best. A lot of fans really like this one, especially the ones that can get into Countdown, and a lot of us who hear it, it doesn't grasp us at first, because it's kind of melodic and very mainstream at some parts, but there's still a lot of great Megadeth writing in there. The riffs are still great, the solos are still great, and I think Dave sounds pretty good. So overall, the strongest thing about this album is the songwriting is still really good. It has a ton of songs, and a lot of them are really good. Reckoning Day, Addicted to Chaos, A Tout Le Monde, Killing Road, Blood of Heroes, Euthanasia, the title track of Awesome, and Black Curtains. Now, I hate the single Train of Consequences, which maybe turns a lot of people off from this album. And I was never the biggest fan of Victory, but I mean, there's still some really good underrated stuff on here, and that's what makes this album so great and unique. It's like a different take on Megadeth, probably the heaviest album from the 2000s, until Dystopia, but we'll get there. This one has a lot of really heavy shit, like Dialectic Chaos, which throws back to Into the Lungs of Hell, This Day We Fight, parts of like 1320, Bite the Hand, Endgame, and that one song, The Hardest Part of Letting Go, which is the ballad. I absolutely love that song. I absolutely hated it at first. It's kind of weird, but it's just so epic, especially the middle part where it gets really awesome. Head Crushers, really thrashy, and I just really love that one song, How the Story Ends, in 44 minutes. Really good, catchy stuff. Very melodic. Chris Broderick brings some really good stuff to the table, but there's some really boring stuff on there, like Bodies and The Right to Go Insane. And I actually didn't really like this album that much at first, but now it's grown a lot on me. Now we get to some really good shit and absolute classics. This album is extremely underrated, and I'd say it's probably the least talked about Megadeth album, because it's not really that much polarizing, and it's not really considered bad or really good usually. So it's the least talked about in my opinion. I think this one needs to be talked about more because it's a really good, consistent album. It takes a lot of the melodicness and catchiness of Cryptic Writings and a lot of the thrashiness of like the early shit, and I think it's really awesome. It reminds me the closest of probably Countdown to Extinction, but more thrashy in parts. You have really thrashy stuff like Blackmail the Universe, Kick the Chair, Back in the Day, which is super thrashy, Truth Be Told. And then you have some more melodic, really good stuff like Die Dead Enough and The Scorpion, Tears in a Vial, which is super beautiful and not talked about as much. Of Mice and Men is kind of annoying, but it's still really catchy. There's just some weak moments on there, like My Kingdom is just terrible, and Shadow of Death is what the fuck is this, and I Know Jack is kind of pointless. Yes, Megadeth's new amazing album Dystopia is a full-on return to some really good shit from back in the day. I'd say it's way heavier and way thrashier and more consistent than Endgame in almost every way. There's some weaknesses on here, but even the weak songs I really enjoy, like The Emperor. A lot of people hate that one. I really like it. I like Foreign Policy, and I even really like the bonus tracks on it. There's some incredible songs in here, like Poisonous Shadows, Fatal Illusion, Dystopia, The Threat Is Real, Lying in State. I really love that song. I really like Bolt to the Brain. That one's really interesting. Death from Within sounds like a freaking groove metal song, so it's really heavy and diverse throughout. Nothing really sounds that similar throughout it. Even the bonus tracks add a lot of dimension to it, and I always thought the song Me Hate You had the dumbest song title ever, but it's actually a really good song that should have been on the album in the first place. I absolutely love Killing Is My Business. The songs on this album are incredible, and they're so different and unique, and we've heard nothing like this in thrash at this point. This was insane speed metal that had absolutely no direction to it, as in, like, there's no set in stone song structure. Like, the song Skull Beneath the Skin has the chorus at, like, the very end and stuff. It's just so unorthodox and weird, and the entire album's like that. It was the album that got me into Megadeth. I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, holy shit, every song on here is awesome. Gar Samuelson freaking rips on this album, and so does everyone else. It's just, the only thing that I think was maybe the weak link on this album was Chris Poland's solos aren't as good on here as they would be on Peace Cells, but there's no weaknesses here. We got the amazing first song, Love to Death. Killing Is My Business is groovy as hell. Skull Beneath the Skin is just so unorthodox and thrashy, one of Megadeth's best songs. Rattlehead is so fucking fast. Chosen Ones is really bizarre, has a really great groove to it. Looking Down the Cross is incredibly epic and melodic, and Dave sings great on it. Mechanics is a classic and pretty much just like Metallica's Four Horsemen, it's the same song. The interesting cover of These Boots, which is actually done pretty tastefully, and there's some really great bass work in there. These albums are masterpieces. Countdown to Extinction is an absolute bona fide classic. Every song on it is amazing. I'm glad a lot of people that, ditched the album that thought this album was just the Black Album from Megadeth. I'm glad a lot of people are now starting to see just how damn good this album is. And I think a lot of people will agree this is probably in the top 3 of Megadeth albums. It is so incredible. Skin on My Teeth is thrashy and incredible. Symphony of Destruction is a classic grooving song. Architecture of Aggression is an extremely underrated thrashy song. For Closure of a Dream is a great ballad. Sweating Bullets is incredibly catchy and thrashy. This Was My Life, once again, a kind of more melodic song. Same with Countdown to Extinction. High Speed Dirt is very weird speed metal, like a really interesting steel guitar solo. Psychotron is great groove metal. Captive Honor has some incredible riffs in there. Ashes in Your Mouth is a classic thrashy, like Peace Cells era Megadeth song with an amazing middle section. This album was literally my favorite album of all time for a very long time, and in some ways still is. This album is one of the most unique albums ever. It is so bizarre and unorthodox. This first song, Wake Up Dead, it's all just such dark, moody thrash metal. This one barely has any vocals to it except maybe like the chorus at the end, but just keeps changing. There's no set in stone structure. It just keeps getting more intense. The Conjuring is just so dark and once again has absolutely no structure. Peace Cells is a very classic song. Devil's Island is a classic with incredible groovy riffs in there, and Chris Poland's solo on there is one of my favorite solos ever. Good Morning Black Friday I think is the best Megadeth song ever. It has an incredible intro that keeps getting more and more moody and epic. And then you get to a song that just keeps getting more and more and more intense until you get to that very end, the Black Friday part, Bad Omen. I've always loved that song. Everything about it's really creepy. The riffs in it are amazing. The subject matter is creepy. And My Last Words is an incredible way to end the album with amazing vocals and incredibly catchy riffs, and the amazing solo in there is great as well. I don't like I Ain't Superstitious that much. It feels completely out of place with the amazing, depressing, dark, moody, progressive atmosphere of every other song. As much as I absolutely adore Peace Cells and the amazing things it did, Rust in Peace is the absolute best Megadeth album ever, and probably the best metal album ever in so many ways. The writing is absolutely incredible. You still have a lot of that unorthodox changes and incredible writing, but then you have solos that are considered some of the best solos in metal on like every single song. Every single song is a classic. Holy Wars, Hangar 18, Take No Prisoners is just so damn thrashy. Five Magics is maybe my favorite song off the whole album. It's just so bizarre. It goes through so many changes, and the solos in it are great. Poison Was the Cure is a thrashy, kick-ass song. Lucretia is melodic and memorable and catchy. Tornado of Souls has probably the greatest solo of all time in it. Dawn Patrol is a great little bassy song. Even though it's like maybe the weakest off the album, I still have always loved Dawn Patrol. It's just so badass. And Rust in Peace, an amazing way to end this incredibly extreme fucking album in more of like a melodic speed metal sort of sense. And is the definitive speed metal album